Hi, dear students, friends. UPSC Mains Examination 2023. Yeah, Civil Service Mains Examination. Yes, you have General Studies papers like General Studies paper 1, 2, 3, 4, plus essay, plus optional and compulsory papers. Now, it's very important that you should know the demand of each papers like GS-1, 2, 3, 4. What is exactly the syllabus, what is the demand of the syllabus. Also, it is always nice to know the recurring themes of GS papers. It's better to have a trend analysis of previous year's questions in history, culture, geography, society. Similar way in GS 2, 3, 4. You could see that having a good grip over the syllabus, the pattern, the demand of paper, people having good grip over the demand of the paper could perform well in the final exams. You are coming to GS1, you have history, culture part from ancient and medieval India, modern Indian history, freedom struggle, world history, post-independence. These all are the areas UPSC asks in the history part of GS1, history and culture part of GS1. So coming to culture, please try to understand what are the core areas of culture in the UPSC Civil Service Mains Examination in GS1. Culture means it is art, architecture, literature. You know, the syllabus of the culture is broadly speaking art, architecture and literature. So let me just share you some important themes asked from 2013 to 2022. Yeah, there are certain topics which is repeatedly asked. In fact, some core areas are there. Especially the Gupta age is very important for you. Gupta age of art, architecture and literature. It is regarded as a golden age of ancient India. In fact, 2022 and 17 and in some other years also they asked from Gupta culture, Gupta art, architecture, literature. So it is nice to cover this Gupta age, development of art, architecture and literature during this Gupta age. Okay, that should not miss, you should not miss that area. Another popular area is, that is in 21 they asked from Bhakti movement, you know. Coming to medieval India, one of the much prioritized area is Bhakti Sufi movements. Bhakti Sufi movements, especially the contributions of the Bhakti Sufi Acharyas or Bhakti Sufi saints, their philosophical contributions, their cultural contributions and their contributions to literature. Okay, so that part is very important for you. In fact, Bhakti questions from Bhakti movement asked in 2021, 2018, 2014 in various years being asked, you know. So Bhakti Sufi movements of this medieval India, especially their contributions to literature, contributions to culture, or Bhakti Sufi Acharyas, their philosophies and their contributions to social change, all those things are important. Women empowerment, etc. important. There is another popular topic which is rocket architecture. Please try to understand the evolution of rocket architecture in the ancient and early medieval India. Then there was a question they asked Pala rulers, ruling dynasty, you know, Pala's contributions to this development of Buddhism, contributions to Buddhism. So it is very nice to cover. Yes, when it is Buddhism, Jainism taken into consideration, especially Buddhism, please cover the regional ruling dynasties of ancient India, early medieval India and their contributions to Buddhist art, architecture, literature. Buddhist art, architecture, literature. You know that art can be various schools of sculptures or painting. Then the architecture can be Chaitya Viharas or maybe such a Buddhist monasteries, etc. Literature, growth of literature, Buddhist literature. So take care, the great contributors, the ruling dynasties, rulers or the great thinkers, writers, contributions to, yes, those who contributed to this art, architecture, literature, that is a favorite area for UPSC. Next is philosophy, ancient philosophy and medieval philosophy, that's important for you. Ancient schools of philosophy, orthodox schools of philosophy, unorthodox schools of philosophy. Similar way, medieval India, I said Bhakti Sufi era, you know, Bhakti Sufi era is also known for evolution of various schools of philosophies, cover it. Then coming to medieval India, another popular area is this evolution of Persian literature, or maybe especially Delhi Sultanate Mughal Empire. During the time, you can see there is development of Persian literature. Okay, there is development of Persian literature. So please try to cover what are the major works done in the Persian literature or Persian language and literature. What are the contributions given by various medieval Indian rulers to the growth of this Persian Arabic language and literature. Okay, that you cover very well. Then of course another popular thing is like different schools of sculptures here. There is Gandhara, Madura, Amravati, Sarnath schools of sculptures. So the very popular schools of sculptures, especially Buddhist Jain schools of sculptures of ancient India and medieval India, you have to cover very well. Another important topic, it was asked in 2018, I think. Yes, there is the travelers to ancient India and early medieval India, various travelers, foreign travelers and their accounts on the socio-political, economic, cultural life of India. Okay, so the foreign travelers and their accounts on this Indian life, that's an important topic, important theme for you. Foreign travelers to India in ancient times and early medieval India. Gupta coinage was asked. Then there is this Buddhist art forms, Stupa art and architecture. Okay, Chaitya Vihara art and architecture. So Gandhara, Madura, Amravati schools of sculpture. So this Buddhist and Jain art and architecture, that's very important for you. Take care the developments of this Buddhist Jain art and architecture during ancient medieval times. Then coming to medieval India, some popular rulers are there, their contributions are very important. Especially Rajendra Chola, their cultural contributions are important. Pallava rulers, their cultural contributions are important, like Narasimhavarman and all. Similar way, coming to Vijayanagara Empire, Krishna Devaraya, his contributions are important to language, literature, art, architecture. Similar way, there are some popular rulers. If you take this Mughal Empire, there is Akbar, there is Shah Jahan, there is Jahangir, contributed to art forms, architecture, literature. Okay, so the great personalities, personalities from royal families, ruling dynasties, and their contributions to or in the field of art, architecture, literature, you have to cover. Then the developments of civilization, how Indian civilizations differed from contemporary world civilizations. I mean ancient or Greece, like ancient Greece, Mesopotamian civilizations, you see. So Indian civilizations, when you cover ancient medieval India, just try to compare and contrast, just try to compare the civilizational values of India and the contemporary world. Okay, that's an important topic for you. Then another topic is, of course, you have to cover the developments of these learning centers or educational centers, especially higher educational centers of this ancient and early medieval India, which is important for you. Another topic is, of course, which is the South, the early South, the Sangam age, Sangal language, Sangal literature. Okay, that thing is important for you. So these are some very popular themes UPSC asked last 2013 to 2022. They asked questions from these areas. It's important for you. Now coming to this modern India, I would say one of the very recurring theme is the colonialism. Various reforms which happened in the colonialism, various reforms undertaken by the British during colonialism, and the impact and implications of this colonial rule, especially the political, social, economic, cultural impacts of this colonialism, which you have to cover very well. Okay, sometimes they asked the famines, the reasons for the famines in the colonial India, or about the army of the British, why they consistently win over Indians. Then there is another popular theme, which is socio-religious reform movements here. Socio-religious reform movements of this 19th and 20th century, which is again very important. The characteristics of socio-religious reform movements, or maybe the causes of socio-religious reform movements, or to what extent they stood for women empowerment, to what extent they stood for the upliftment of the marginal sections, or how this Indian national movement had drawn inspiration from the values of socio-religious reform movements. Such questions are asked. Okay. Next important thing is popular viceroys of India and their policies. You know, you should have a critical analysis of this very popular these viceroys or governor generals of India. For example, Curzon was asked, Dalhousie was asked. Similar way you can expect Lillingtagau. Similar way you can expect this Irving, or this what is his name, Lytton. Okay, so the popular governor generals, viceroys, and the various reforms, you know, you have to take care. It's a positive and negative implications, impacts you have to take care. Next important thing is, of course, that the status of the subaltern people, or maybe during this colonial rule, what was the economic life, social life of these common people, laymen of India. That is an important area for you. Then you should have an idea about yes, the very popular uprisings which happened against this British. You know, peasant uprisings are there, tribal uprisings are there, even 1857 revolt. Go for the multi-dimensional approach. I mean, the various causes for such uprisings against British and the consequences of such uprisings. Okay, such things you cover very well. Now moving on to the next part, which is freedom struggle. Coming to freedom struggle, I would say yes, UPSC asked questions about the comparison between moderates and extremists, the reasons for the failure of the moderates, okay, or how these ideological differences reflected between moderates and extremists. Then there is, of course, coming to this freedom struggle, you must have the idea about the characteristics of, or the fundamental features of this Swadeshi movement, Rowlatt Satyagraha, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement, Wren Mutiny, etc., etc., etc. The very popular movements, agitations during moderate extremist Gandhian phases and revolutionary phases, you know, that you cover very well. 21, there was a question, it's about NCM and CDM. So similar way, you just have an idea, you should know the ideological differences between moderates, extremists, and how their failure resulting in these armed agitations against British. Now you should also know Gandhian phase, how the Gandhian phase is distinguished from the earlier phases of Indian freedom struggle, and the basic fundamental features of Gandhian movement. Okay, also there is another popular thing, which is the participation of the women participation in freedom struggle, especially Gandhian phase. Okay, why women participated, or what are the push and pull factors which had drawn these women into the mainstream of Indian national agitation during freedom struggle. Okay, and also you should know to what extent the women questions are addressed in the freedom struggle. Okay, similar way, the labor questions addressed in the freedom struggle, the peasant questions addressed in the freedom struggle, the middle class questions addressed in the freedom struggle. Okay, those things you cover very well. Then of course there is a question, the question is like the comparison between personalities. You can expect a question, there was already a question, Subhash Chandra Bose versus Gandhiji. Similar way, Gandhiji versus Jawaharlal Nehru. Similar way, you can expect questions like maybe for example Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel versus Nehru. Okay, so the very important personalities and contributors, okay, or Jawaharlal Nehru versus Subhash Chandra Bose. So very important personalities or contributors of the freedom struggle, and how they were similar to each other or different to each other in terms of their ideologies and methodologies, that you cover very well, the very popular personalities. Now there is a question, the question was like this, yes, how hard it would be the achievement of the freedom or this achievement of independence without Gandhiji. So such way you can expect a question, how hard it would be achievement of the freedom without Subhash Chandra Bose or Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, or maybe it is somebody else, some other great leaders. So this type of the questions also you can expect in the freedom struggle part. So having a good grip over the great contributors of the freedom struggle and their contributions, that's very important for you. Must have an idea, great contributors and their contributions, okay, of freedom struggle. Now there was a question like Constituent Assembly. Okay, I mean to what extent this Constituent Assembly took inspiration from Government of India Act 1935 to draft the Indian Constitution. So similar way, you can expect a question how the British, like a British constitutional reforms eventually helped in this, drafting of a new constitution, or how this colonial legacy largely influenced this constitution making or constitution assembly or this government formation after independence. Okay, that way you can expect questions. Similarly, they asked you questions about Panipat battle. Why third Panipat battle? Empire shaking battles fought at Panipat. It was in 2014, I think. Economic policies of the British is asked, naval mutiny is asked, women in freedom struggle repeatedly asked, foreigners in Indian national movement. That is also another important aspect. Take care. The role of the foreigners in Indian freedom struggle, that also you cover very well, because UPSC has a tendency of repeating the areas. Okay. Now coming to world history, I would say, 21 there was a question like democratic status, challenges of democratic status during that World War crisis. Okay, so of course that is a popular theme of this UPSC. They connect world wars with various events of this international arena. Okay, for example, the democracy challenges during world wars, World War I and II, or there can be questions like anti-colonial struggles during these world wars. Okay, or there can be questions like this, for example, the industrialization during World War. Okay, so different events of this world history can be connected with this World War contest. So cover it that way. Then there was a question like American French revolutions. It was in 2019, I think. American French revolutions, yes, how they were influential on this, or how much they were contributory to this development of modern world. So it is always nice to cover the popular revolutions of world history. American Revolution, French Revolution, Italian, German revolutions, Russian revolutions. Okay, cover the popular revolutions and how they contributed to rise of a new world. Okay, or how they contributed to this idea of republican state, democratic state, secular state, socialist state, or rational state, or how they contributed to modern values, modern fundamentals. Okay, so just to cover that aspect. Then next is, of course, there was a question, the anti-colonial struggle in West Africa. So obviously this is again a favorite area for UPSC. You should have an idea on the nature of, or the characteristics of, the salient features of anti-colonial agitations which happened in this America, Africa, or Asia. Okay, have an idea. The very popular anti-colonial movements of Africa, anti-colonial movements of this Asia, anti-colonial movements of this America, and what was their nature, true character, and what were their outcomes. Okay. Other question is, of course, industrialization, industrial revolution. You should understand the nature of industrial revolution in Europe or in the Western world, and how it is different from this Eastern world. Okay, industrialization, industrial revolution, how the features of industrial revolution different from West to East, that you should have an idea. Then of course, the question repeated is anti-colonial struggles. You see, anti-colonial struggles, have an idea. Anti-colonial struggles, their political, social, economic impact, cover very well. Then UPSC asked on this, American Revolution was repeated. Then there is a question on economic depression, the various reasons for this economic depression and how it impacted world economy, India in particular. Okay, similar way, the scramble for Africa, the division of Africa, or this the colonial imperial powers and the thirst, or and their conquest, or their competition for this Africa. You cover that area also. Okay, the colonization, decolonization of Africa, cover very well. So these are some popular themes asked from this world history. Coming to post-independence, I would say post-independence is rarely asked. The frequency is very limited, but still some important topics are there which you have to cover very well. Yeah, coming to this particular, there was a 2019, there was a question, connection between, that is more or less like a colonial history or a pre-independent, post-independent one, but it is very nice. You have to cover how these colonial events, or maybe the major events of this British India, how it impacted the events of post-independent India. That way you cover, I mean, the British legacy or the colonial legacy, positively, negatively, how it impacted or it become crucial in shaping the new economic policies, or maybe the new cultural policies, tribal policies, or these industrial policies, agrarian policies of the free government. That you cover very well. There was a question like a Gandhian ideas and the relevance in the present. Okay. There was a question like religiousness and this communalism. Difference between religiousness and communalism. There are questions like it's Buddha and Gramdan movement, Jai Jawan Jai Kisan slogan, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, his contributions to colonial India and this independent India, Tashkent Agreement, India's role in emergence of Bangladesh. So it is nice to cover post-independence, limited modules are there. Have an idea about integration of the princely states and their challenges. Yes, of course, partition and its aftermath, or maybe the new economic policies, new foreign policies, okay, and this emergency crisis. So if you cover those things of this post-independent India, you can answer these questions easily. So in fact, you try to understand, these are some core themes, core areas you have to work upon as far as this GS1 mains history and culture is concerned. So you should have a habit of revising these topics very well. Usually what happens with the majority aspirants, they are thinking that yes, this history and culture is prepared for prelims, so I will focus on some other areas, I will skip this. That is a blunder idea, because for many people GS1 is the less scoring paper, GS1, GS3, etc. So that is why I would say that don't ever underestimate it, and don't ever overestimate yourself or your preparation. I would say that while giving due weightage to your essay, ethics and optionals, it is necessary to practice answer writings in this GS1, 2, 3 also. Okay, if you haven't covered them very well, you cover them, revise them and practice answer writing. That's a real game changer here, because good revisions and good practices, that will help you to clear the cutoff in GS papers or in the mains cutoff. Okay, so its practice matters a lot, and simply bluffing, if you feel that you can fool the examiner with your vocabulary and language, that will not work out here. You must have the content here. So different themes are there of history, culture or society, geography, similar way in 2 and 3, paper 2 and 3. What I would say that at least over the core themes you must have a thorough revisions, and you must have the core content to answer. Okay, that's also important. Have a good revision, practice, and every Sunday's exam you should not skip. All the very best. Thank you.